From the hill covered with dense bushes, a young man watched as a majestic palace with a dome rose in the distance. He sits quietly, his eyes stubbornly looking ahead, thinking about what is approaching. In 3 days. The city's hero will hold a great celebration, and this event already weighs on his thoughts. In a small stone room, an old man spreads out a plan on a wooden table, points to documents, and explains the goal lively. The youth listens silently, focused, reviewing papers, a child's portrait and a building plan. His plan is clear. He will enter first, pretending to be a servant, and wait for the right moment to act. The hero is considered a living legend. Gods praise him, people adore him, and tales depict him as unparalleled, almost inhuman. Meanwhile, the lonely swordsman in a cloak walks with a sword on his shoulder and thinks about the weight of this glory and what it truly means. The tales grow. They say the hero killed 3 of the 4 demon kings, defeated monsters that loomed over entire battlefields. They say he crushed an army of 10,000 under their banner, leaving behind only fallen bodies and broken weapons. In front of the majestic palace, buzzing with the crowd's applause, the hero stands as a symbol of hope. He is adored as the guiding light of humanity. But behind these praises hides a darker truth. There are those who wish for his death. In the silence of the room, the elder man gives the young assassin the choice of method, and the young man calmly accepts the task, asking only for the freedom to decide how to carry it out. Above the scattered documents, a small portrait of the hero is raised. His face looks from the page. Below, a soldier looks with burning hatred, his fist tightly clenched. His determination is obvious. He wants to kill the hero and see it with his own eyes. The soldier's hatred burns deeper than the surface of memories. He sees his beloved granddaughter and the pain that drove her to suicide, blaming the hero for it. Rage contorts his face, and he swears never to forgive him. Tears flow from beneath his cap. The weight of loss is red on him. In the quiet room, the boy looks at him and understands how heavy these feelings are. The old man accepts the killer's icy nature with a barely noticeable smile. The young man walks down a broken street. Bodies scattered around. It is clear that he works quickly, neatly, and without hesitation. For him, tools do not require emotions. Many have broken under pressure, but he stands firm. This mission will be his last, and he is the only reliable blade left. The young killer's face fills the frame. His eyes are cold and unwavering as the mission finally becomes clear in his mind. He will kill the hero. Beneath that dark determination appears the hero, surrounded by smiling comrades waving and laughing like ordinary people, and the contrast is harsh. A man doomed to death stands in the middle of a bright, carefree world. In a magnificent hall under a wide dome, the nobility and honored guests have gathered for a lavish celebration. Among the crowd stands out the hero, smiling and talking with the people around him, all eyes fixed on him. He is the center of attention of this exquisite gathering, and from afar someone quietly recognizes him and whispers that the target is right there, in the middle of it all. The hero is quickly surrounded by excited nobles, all asking for his attention and inviting him to dance. He smiles sincerely and handles the crowd easily, though he himself says he is not very good at dancing. He gracefully glides across the dance floor with one of the ladies, drawing admiration from all present. With his charm, attractive appearance, and impeccable public image, he seems at first glance to be an ideal. He is clearly valued not only for his strength in battle. Standing aside, the killer looks coldly and unwaveringly. He does not care what kind of hero this is. The order is above all for him, and if told to kill, he will do it without hesitation. While the party buzzes around, the hero steps away from the crowd and walks to a quieter corner. From above, the killer notices a movement. The moment he has been waiting for has finally come. Suddenly, the lights went out, and the palace plunged into darkness. Titanic spreads among the crowd, while aristocrats shout about the light. Amid chaos and screams, a shadow silently moves into action. Servants and guards rush through the corridors, confused by the sudden blackout. Orders ring out as they try to take control and calm the guests. Outside the window, the killer crouches in the shadows and watches the chaos unfold, while the staff scramble to respond somehow. Sliding through the dark corridor, the killer slips past a patrol and goes deeper, staying low and focused, constantly reminding himself, "Don't mess this up." Using the map, he reaches the place where the hero's room should be, but when he peeks inside, something is wrong. A look of confusion flashes across his face. In a private room, a servant, awkwardly apologizing, asks the guests to wait while everything is sorted out. The nobles grumble with irritation, not trembling with fear. One woman indignantly says that common people are good for nothing. Others grumble that the darkness ruined the evening, while the hero sits quietly among them, calm, as complaints echo around the room. The hero still smiles despite the delay, brushing everything off lightly. One woman grumbles impatiently, and another scolds her to lighten the mood. The hero suggests passing the time with a game. The tension melts when someone magically lights the room, and everyone gathers around him again, as if drawn by his cheerful energy. Suddenly, the hero draws a sword and turns against a man in the room. smiling and seemingly jokingly offering to maim him. The mood instantly changes. The victim panics and begs for his life, while the hero indifferently explains how to make a body disappear without a trace. The killer watches from the shadows. When he realized that the radiant image of the hero concealed something much darker, the words of the old soldier echoed in the killer's head as he watched the scene unfold. He already suspected the truth, but what he saw confirmed everything. The hero mockingly ridicules the victim, speaks lightly about pain and punishment, holding the blade with a smirk. At that moment, the killer clearly understands that the one glorified as the savior of humanity is nothing but a scoundrel fully deserving death, and the hero senses someone's presence in the darkness and turns around, intrigued. From the shadow emerges a tall silhouette, the cloak hanging heavily, a hand resting on the blade. Eyes calm, voice steady, he calls himself Julie and without hesitation says why he came. He was hired to kill the hero. The hero bursts out laughing at this statement. The very thought of his murder clearly amuses him. He mocks the attempt and instantly realizes that the blackout is part of the plan. Pushing others in the room aside, he fully focuses on Julie. For him, this is not a threat, it is entertainment. With a sly smile, he decides that playing with this new opponent is much more fun. The hero's companions eagerly begged to join the fight, but he waved them off, taking the killer for himself. They were not even afraid, treating everything like a game. For them, the risk of death seems usual, almost routine, whether madness or confidence born from numerous battles. They stand behind him like true heroes, unafraid of danger, and the hero admits, something is off here. When the supposed assassination attempt turned into a direct duel, he with a sword in hand calls Julie forward, eager to meet him face to face. Julie knows this goes against his usual methods. He never revealed himself before the target. Yet he approaches closely, the blade at the hero's throat. Even if he dies tonight, he first wants to check something, although he knows it's not like him. Julie grips the sword hilt tighter, thinking about how far his skill will take him in the fight against the one called the hero. A faint smile appears on his face as he prepares. Instead of fear, the hero responds excitedly, inviting him to prove it. In a moment, he lunges forward, and the duel finally begins. The hero's blade crashes down stunningly. The force alone would have crushed Julie if it had hit cleanly. Julie barely dodges the strike, and the floor cracks under its impact. He swings again and again. Each blow is so strong it could tear the room apart, and yet, Julie holds firm and suddenly realizes the strikes are powerful, but the movements behind them are simple. Seeing that Julie does not fall behind, the hero smiles and changes tactics. He announces the name of the move, and his blade flashes downward like a falling dragon. The air tears with force as the attack bursts toward Julie faster and sharper than before. The hero boasts. His shining blade rushes forward, confident the attack will sweep Julie away. But when the strike subsides, Julie is still standing. The force that could kill demon kings could not bring him down. Smoke swirls around. He emerges unscathed, calm, and confident, and tells the hero that luck is not on his side today. Julie calmly raised his hand and said that heroic technique fails precisely against those like him. Spectator panics, unable to believe that magic could go unnoticed, especially from an assassin. The hero looks distrustful. He was sure his strike should have pierced Julie's hand, but doubt slowly creeps in. The hero tries to joke, assuring he can instantly heal wounds, but suddenly coughs up dark blood. He falls, poison spreading through him. Julie stands unshaken and reveals the truth. The blade was coated with a toxin that reacts only to magic. Even a small wound, and due to the so-called strength of the legendary hero, the poison acts faster. The hero has only minutes left. The hero collapses, his comrades panic and hurriedly line up. Before they can properly react, a fierce explosion tears through the room, throwing them back and smashing everything around. One of the women suddenly breaks free. Rage overtakes her, and she lunges forward with a wild scream. She swings this Julie with all her strength, bursting into the room in a furious attack. Julie remains calm, slipping aside at the last moment as her strike whizzes past him. Julie approaches and with a single clean blow knocks her down. The rage instantly fades. She falls, trembling and begging for her life, apologizing through tears, while he looks at her emotionlessly, the blade still and her pleas echo in the room. When the threat was neutralized, Julie lowers his blade and says it is over. The old man, shaken but alive, calls to him. The guard hesitates, wondering whether to kill the old man too. Julie says no. The man is a professional and will not say a word. While confusion spreads in the room, the old man steps forward, shocked by what just happened. The hero lies motionless on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. Julie calmly says that the only goal was the hero. When he was accused of cowardice, he brushed it off, saying he was simply fighting his own battle. The job is done, and there is neither pride nor regret in him, only quiet determination. The old man kneels beside the fallen hero and quietly asks who ordered his murder. Julie does not answer directly, but he leaves him a warning. While cleaning near the body, he says that the most dangerous creatures are not monsters, but humans. The hero lies there, barely conscious, still holding on to pride, though his life slowly fades. Julie looms over him, blade lowered, and calmly says that in another life he should not have made so many enemies. The old man looks with a barely noticeable smile, and at that moment the rain begins to fall. The legend ended in silence. The hero's body lies motionless, blood drips from his lips, he is dead. Julie quietly turns away as the old man falls to his knees. With tears in his eyes, he whispers that his granddaughter can finally rest, and silence falls in the room. The long chase for revenge is finally over. Snow swirls outside the window. The old man kneels by the body. Regret briefly crosses his face, but he forces himself to let it go. Julie stops by the door and glances once more at the quiet room. Without saying another word, he turns and leaves, his silhouette fading into the falling snow. After 13 days, the city fell silent, after the chaos was cleared away. Julie was ordered to hide and settle last matters before leaving the country. Now he walks alone through the trees to a small house, and the majestic palace remains far behind. He carefully studies the forged papers in his hands. They say Jade his new identity, with this fake document made for him. He will be able to cross the border without the slightest suspicion. The killer known as Julie no longer exists, and from now on, he will try to live as an ordinary man named Jade. Now that it is all over, doubt has settled in him. Jade looks at his reflection and does not know how to live now. Murder has been his shadow since he can remember himself. Can someone like him really get lost among ordinary people, or will he always feel an emptiness without purpose? Jade notices a small worn notebook on the ground, picks it up, and confusedly does not understand how it ended up in his bag. When he looks at it, a memory surfaces. Once someone asked him if he had ever eaten cake. The name Hachi comes to his mind, along with that simple conversation they once had, and it all quietly weaves through his thoughts. The memory seems to become clearer. Hachi once laughed, joking about cakes, saying that those from stores must be tastier than they imagined. She pictured a fluffy cake covered with edible flowers and decided that she would definitely try it someday. She wrote it down in her little wish list. When he asked if she meant that it needed to be eaten, she shook her head with a smile. All she wanted was simple, to deliver the cake. He remembers the man who, because of him, never managed to give the cake to his daughter. Hachi's tearful face does not leave his memory. She said she no longer wanted to kill, that she just wanted an ordinary life, decided to leave, go out into the world and live freely, and he cannot forget this. He flips through the worn pages and recalls her words about running away together. Lowering his gaze to the book, he quietly whispers her name. After a long pause, he closes his eyes and quietly exhales. It is not yet his time to die. Hiding the notebook, he turns his back on the past and walks into the forest. He knows he will not be able to fulfill every dream from her list. But when the wind blows through the trees, it vows to carry it further instead of her. Standing on the edge of the cliff, he looks at the boundless world of forests, mountains, and floating islands, and behind him remains the past. He decides to set off beyond the horizon and return with stories worth telling. The hero's killer has disappeared. The past is buried. He closes the book in his hand and walks forward alone. What begins now is nothing more than the life of an ordinary person. The legendary hero is dead. Rumors have spread throughout the empire. Some blame the demon kings, others suspect political conspiracies. People are in shock, mourning, and unable to comprehend what happened. But the truth is known to no one. The hero was killed by only one single killer, who now walks into his second life. He found himself before the huge walls of the new kingdom and watched as a stream of travelers passed through the gates. The man he once was no longer exists. Standing under the open sky, he quietly steps onto this land like a new person, ready to start anew. At the Ensari border, a queue of travelers stretches, waiting to enter. When his turn comes, he steps forward and shows forged documents. They say Jade, and since then that has been his name. He hugged the paper with his identity and thought. Except for his face, everything about Jade was bought with money. In the underground, life is traded like any commodity, and he grew up in the shadows after Kuro took him under his wing without any papers. He was never part of a family. By the gates, he shortens his story to a few words and quietly passes by, carrying the last fragments of a life that was never truly his. The guard checked his documents and allowed him to pass. He moved forward trying to stay calm, but something in her gaze lingered. Just when he thought it was all behind him, she called him back and stopped him. His heart skipped a beat. The guard shouted, and for a moment his nerves tensed. But instead of suspicion, she simply welcomes him to the free kingdom of Ensari and wishes him a safe journey. He sighs, realizing that in fact nothing happened, and steps into the crowd. Inside the kingdom, the streets are bustling. Crowds of people from different peoples and all walks of life press close to each other. Shout travelers pass by, and the city comes alive, as a land of freedom should, Looking at this, he understands. If he wants to stay, he needs money, which means finding a job and truly starting over. Looking at the people laughing together, he wonders if he will ever be able to smile the same way. He asks himself if there is a place in this world for a man who only knows how to kill. And suddenly, through doubts, a memory of Kacha's voice emerges. He whispers to him, "You can do it." He looks ahead with quiet determination. For a moment, it seems to him as if he hears her voice again. He freezes, scanning the crowd, unsure if it is just an echo in his head. After a moment, he lets it go and moves on, quietly promising himself to do everything in his power. 3 days pass the city as promised, crowded and full of movement and opportunities. He merges into the flow of people, telling himself that more people means more chances to find a job, and when he is called, he steps forward, ready to earn his place. At the checkpoint, the guard sharply demands his documents and luggage and strictly orders not to delay the queue. He quietly hands over the documents, barely audible, saying that he is just looking for a job and a roof over his head. The guard looks at him suspiciously, noticing that he arrived with almost nothing. The guard carefully reviewed the papers and eventually let him through, but not without a few offensive remarks about his appearance. And a warning not to cause trouble. He thanks him and moves forward. The deeper he goes into the city, the clearer the question spins in his head. What can he even do? He has combat experience, mostly killings, but working as a guard could be a start. Walking through the noisy streets, he whispers to himself that he is finally free and thinks, trying an honest job, how could that hurt? Suddenly he hears a few remarks from people nearby and realizes probably he smells like road dust. Sighing slightly, he decides, first a bath. He rents a small room and finally, for the first time in many years, stands under the shower. As the dirt washes away, he feels a bit relieved, as if he is a person again. The bed is booked for at least 10 days, so he has little time to decide what to do next. He comes out of the shower and suddenly realizes everything he has fits into one bag: a knife, a notebook, a few coins. That is all his old life. Someone knocks and shouts for him to stop taking all the water. Dressed again, he quietly thanks the innkeeper and returns to the corridor, carrying with him the last traces of the person he once was. He plopped down on the soft bed, sprawled out, and with a long exhale felt relief, nothing like those rough bunks in the hideout. For the first time in a long time, he allows himself to relax, no need to kill, and that calms his mind as sleep creeps in. He remembers her wish to rest once on a soft bed and quietly thinks that this is a promise he is already fulfilling. Lying there, he decided a cheap bed is not an option. If he is to stay, he urgently needs money and better housing. The next day he finally finds time to look around the city. The main street is crowded, louder and livelier than he expected, and blending into the crowd, he seriously begins to think about how to make a living here. He walks through the market and insists to himself, there must be something he can do. Shops full of goods and noise stretch along the streets. But still his eyes constantly drift to the weapon stalls. He looks at the price and realizes, right now it is too high for him. He moves on, but suddenly something catches his attention. He freezes. He stops in front of a fruit kiosk, enchantedly gazing at the shiny fruits. They seem too good, and suddenly reality makes itself known. Having paid for the night at the inn, he barely has any money left, and he hasn't eaten properly for a long time. He hesitates, when suddenly a smiling seller approaches and offers help, and this completely catches him off guard. He suddenly blurts out that he wants to work there. Embarrassing the girl behind the counter, she becomes flustered. He stubbornly says he will take any job, just to be hired. Before she could properly respond, a burly man ran out from inside, shouted at him, and demanded to know what he thought he was doing. The burly manager stormed out, looked at him, and categorically refused to hire such a person. He was pushed and he rolled on the ground, falling again and again, trying to protest, but it did no good. Brushing the dust off himself, he swallows his disappointment and decides to look for a job elsewhere. He goes from shop to shop, but everywhere he is refused. Some close their doors in his face, others don't even let him finish speaking. Disappointment grows as he realizes jobs are everywhere but not for him. At 38 years old, without a real job except for killings, he knows he looks suspicious. Looking at his reflection, he thinks that his worn-out clothes and hardened face make him exactly who he once was. He almost ran into a young woman carrying papers. She quickly turned and apologized, her glasses slightly askew. For a moment the crowd burst around them, someone shouted help, and people rushed past. She checks if he is injured. He waves it off and says everything is fine. She breathes a sigh of relief, good that no one dropped anything. Behind their backs the street noise does not subside when suddenly an old woman falls to the ground and screams that some man has robbed her. The crowd turned as someone rushed down the street. A man was immediately pointed out, and he without hesitation ran after the thief. A second later the girl reacted and said she would follow. Ahead are narrow and winding alleys, and if they don't move quickly, the thief will disappear. Suddenly, a strange ring of power appears on the street, and the girl freezes in confusion. She looks around, trying to understand what just happened. The guards move alert and coordinated. The thief ran into an alley, but it is open at the top. The plan is simple: let him think he is safe, and as soon as the path clears, surround him. From the roof, the man calmly watches everything and admits to himself that the only skills he has truly mastered are those made for killing. And now he uses them again, only differently, rushing swiftly across the roofs, jumping over tiles and narrow gaps, while the city beneath him sprawls unaware if anyone can still be saved. Deciding there is no point in holding back, the thief rushes down a narrow alley, coughing and barely breathing, thinking he is far enough to be safe. Smiling, he checks the loot and confirms the target, an item called the blue drop. Gripping the loot tightly, he fled, thinking only of the reward waiting for him. The thief boasts that once he returns the stolen goods, his business will be done. He had no time to react when behind him appeared Jew and wrapped a hand around his neck. The man's confidence evaporates, he suffocates and struggles. Panic flashed across his face, and Jude tightened his grip without hesitation. The thief struggles in the Jewish hold, barely conscious, foam dripping from his mouth. The Jew thinks how once he relied on blades and broken bones, and how strangulation still throws him off balance. He forces himself to hold back. Killing would be easier. Keeping someone alive requires much more control. This time he decides not to take it to the end. Jude raises his eyes to the sky and thinks he finally has something to be proud of. Saving someone is something else entirely, and this is the story he would like to tell Hachi. He drops to his knees and checks the found bag, dirty, but the contents intact. That is the main thing, so he decides to return it as soon as possible. He barely managed to stand up when he noticed the guards and townspeople are staring at him. You lift the bag, trying to show it is undamaged, but even before he can explain, a woman in panic points at him. The guards react instantly, and he froze as if rooted to the spot. When the accusation hit, he was called a thief. The Jew remembers the day when he killed the tyrannical hero and kept telling himself that his skills exist only for killing. Whatever the reason, murder still remained murder. Now, instead of taking someone's life, he returns the stolen bag and helps a person in trouble. It's a small thing, but for the first time he feels that his hands have done something good. The woman in panic points at him and shouts that he is the thief who stole her bag. The guards immediately turn to you. He freezes, confused, while people shout at him not to move. He suddenly realizes they consider him a criminal. The Jew falls to his knees and quickly denies the accusations because he thought that fleeing would only make him look guilty. He forces himself to stay calm. He explains that he was chasing the real thief and returned the bag. He even says that the man is unconscious in the nearby alley and is waiting to be found. The guards do not believe him. One of them decisively orders to arrest him, and another points to the distance between the main street and the red light district. He insisted that he could not have caught the thief and returned so quickly, and to them his story was unbelievable. Obviously, he was lying. He realizes that no word will change their opinion, and the crowd begins to turn against him. I was convinced that he tried to take advantage of the chaos to escape with the stolen bag, and my irritation only grew. He regrets getting involved so openly, but he will not agree to punishment for something he did not do. Having no other choice, he decides to break free and fight his way out, pushing through the crowd, trying to slip away. Suddenly, a breathless young woman screamed, pointed at him, and insisted that he was not a thief. The guards froze, and he turned around and, surprised, recognized the same woman he had just bumped into. The woman calmly steps forward and asks the guards to verify the truth before arresting an innocent person. She explains that she was there when it happened and that they were both chasing the real thief. The officers paused, listening to her words. One warned, what if the real culprit escapes? After a short pause, they decide to check her words and order the man to lead them to where they left the thief. She gives him a quiet smile of relief, and he still tensely avoids her gaze. Soon he leads the guards through narrow streets and points ahead. The suspect is right there. The guards confirm the suspect lying in the alley. Jew calmly supports their words. As soon as the officers approach, the tension melts away. One of them sighs over the chaos, and the Jews stand silently, watching as everything gradually settles down. The Jew watches closely as the crowd quiets down and the guards lead away the real thief. He thinks about the girl who intervened and cleared his name. He sees her again. He sincerely thanks her. But he knows you can't rely on luck without money and without support. He returns to the streets, reminding himself that he still needs a job. The Jew stops by a small tool shop. He is sure that none of the stores on the main street would hire a person who looks like him, but for some reason this shop catches his attention. He thinks that such shops are often a cover for the underground world. Earlier, he always avoided such places, but now he has almost decided to go inside. Jude tells himself that he can no longer be picky and enters the tool shop. It is quiet here. On the shelves, bottles and tools. He closes the door behind him and goes further inside. Suddenly he stops, his eye narrows, something is wrong, and Ju looks around the shop, lingering on the neatly displayed weapons and tools. The craftsmanship immediately catches his eye. Everything here is beautifully made and carefully maintained. It is clear that the owner sincerely takes pride in the counter and shelves filled with goods, and the place seems alive but quiet. It seems to him that this is either the work of an old experienced master or someone equally skilled and serious about their craft. No one is visible ahead, so he quietly calls out, assuming the owner might be in the back. Suddenly a giant with broad shoulders emerges from behind the counter, and his figure seems to fill the entire room. He addresses Jude in a deep voice and smiles easily, completely confident in what he sells, and his thick beard and pumped muscles make him look more like a warrior than a shopkeeper. He proudly gestures to the shop, inviting Jude to look at the goods. Up close his smile softens and becomes more friendly, almost cheerful, as he gazes at the silent customer. Jude just stands for a second and looks at the size and energy of the man before him. On the right side behind the counter stands a large muscular shopkeeper, smiling and inviting the client inside, confidently gesturing and showing the goods, while the young man at the entrance silently watches him and says not a word. The next moment the shopkeeper quietly laughed to himself, clearly pleased, while the visitor remained silent. On the right side, the shopkeeper looked at the boy through the window, arms crossed, watching attentively. Inside, a young man looks somewhat tensely at the devices, which stand opposite each other. The seller thinks he is a buyer, but the guy corrects him. He did not come to buy anything and calmly says he wants a job. The seller freezes in surprise and looks at him with new interest. On the right side, the shopkeeper burst out laughing loudly, was amused that the young man asked for a job instead of goods. He considers the answer witty and openly enjoys it. The young man is silent, slightly puzzled by such a reaction. Having calmed down, the shop owner admits that he would hire him out of curiosity, but the shop is too small and does not need extra hands. The young man tries to respond, not knowing how to take it. To the right, the seller encouragingly tells the young man not to lose hope and adds that he can come back again if something happens. The young man quietly nods, accepting this. In a moment the door opened, and an energetic girl in glasses entered the room. She immediately caught the attention of both. She instantly recognizes the young man she saw earlier and beams with relief, happy to see that after everything he is safe. On the right, on the street, the girl reacts enthusiastically to the idea that he is looking for a job. She clenches her fists, joy sparkles in her eyes, and she says that it is a wonderful idea. Inside, she confidently tells the seller that they would get along wonderfully, adds that the young man is kind and reliable, and even recalls how he previously helped catch a criminal. On the right side, the girl eagerly joins the conversation, insisting that she also wants to help, while the young man stands quietly in the shadow as the shopkeeper listens attentively. After a short pause, the shopkeeper suddenly decides with a broad smile and a raised thumb. He announces that they are taking the boy and asks him to come tomorrow. The girl looks relieved and grateful, confessing that it was too hard to carry this place alone, and its return could not have come at a better time. To the right, the shopkeeper proudly tenses his muscles, thanking them for always looking out for him, although he insists that he is fine. In the background, the girl anxiously notices that he is tormenting himself too much and quietly asks for his burden to be eased a little. The young man watches and gradually begins to understand what is happening. Finally, the shopkeeper turns to him and asks his name. The young man answered quietly and calmly, introducing himself as Julie. On the right, another young man whispered his name, Jade, with a slight smile. The girl warmly introduced herself as Stana. Below, the seller, still tense but calmer, named himself Leslie, completing their introductions. On the right, near the shop, Stana cheerfully encourages Jade. Do everything you can, you are always welcome here, and adds that he can come again anytime. Jade looks back at them, touched by their kindness. With a sincere expression, he thanks them and quietly promises to repay them someday. From the right side, Stana walks away with a gentle smile, a bag in her hand, leaving behind a quiet calm. Inside, Leslie turned to Jade and asked if he was really sure about this decision. Jade, half-jokingly, but with seriousness in his voice, warned him not to regret later hiring someone like him. Leslie confidently waved it off and teased him for trying to seem cool. Meanwhile, Stana walks down the street alone. From the right side, Leslie throws his arm over Jade's shoulders and laughs loudly, saying that Stana's words are enough for him, insisting that he is a simple man and does not care about qualifications. Jade sincerely thanks him and promises to work tirelessly. Leslie smiles and agrees, but immediately says they will pay little. Waving it off, he says that for now he somehow survives, and that is enough for him. From the right side, Jade smiles and says she is looking forward to it, and Leslie adds, "Come early tomorrow to start learning on the job." Jade left the store, thinking it was better not to mess this up. He did not expect to find such a job. Walking down the street, he feels as if he has finally reached a new beginning for the first time in a long while. It seems to him that he is coming out of darkness into something better. To the right, Jade stands on the balcony and watches the city roof stretching into the distance. He quietly decides from now on to live an ordinary life, and while the city moves below, he turns away from his past and chooses a simple path forward. On the right on the floor lies a beaten man, apologizing and promising that next time will be better, all this in a dim bar, along the walls of which rows of bottles stand. An impeccably dressed man calmly sits with a sword on his lap. He interrupts any excuses. He does not need apologies, cold and direct, demanding to know what happened to Azure Drop. On the right side, a frightened man admits that he stole an item, but was caught during the escape. Soldiers drag him down the street, and he trembles. Meanwhile, in the bar, the man in the suit coldly reminds that he was hired for speed, but even an ordinary soldier managed to catch him. In panic, the thief insists that he was not caught, while running says that someone knocked him down, and only then the soldier grabbed him. The man with the sword listens silently. His face reveals nothing. On the right side, the thief says he only saw soldiers dragging a man away, and the man in the suit, smiling and spreading his hands, asks what kind of person that was and whether it could have been another killer. He is interested in this detail. The thief panics and points out that he was suddenly called back. The man in the suit coldly replies that he could have followed them to find out more, and the thief, realizing his mistake, screams in despair. On the right side, a dark, fierce strike cut through the air and felled the thief, not allowing him to say more, and the man in the suit coldly threw, "Do not blame others for your failure." The body splashes into a puddle of blood. He mutters that only fools gather here, and the townspeople are good for nothing. Without hesitation, orders to kill the prisoner so that no information leaks, and says he will tell everything to those above him. On the right side, a man in a suit bursts into the ransacked room, angry that he has to clean up the mess again when he is already up to his ears in work. Still irritated, he orders others to clean the room and leaves. For him, it was supposed to be simple, so, clenching his fist, he swears to kill the one who interfered and ruined the plan. He barely restrains his rage. Behind him is a damaged door frame. On the right side, the man in the suit looks with a twisted smile, sweat running down his face, and promises cruel revenge. Somewhere in another part of the city, Jade calmly walks down the street, unaware of the threat looming over him. On the right side, the shop opens for the day, and Leslie comes out, muttering about the cold morning. Turning his thoughts back to yesterday, he remembers trying to look cool in front of Stana and ended up hiring Jade, and now, rubbing his beard, quietly hopes the new guy won't turn out to be a weirdo. On the right side, Jade calmly greeted Leslie and said he would count on him. Leslie jumped in surprise, didn't expect him so early. He notes that it is still dawn, but Jade simply says he came to say hello. Leslie shakes his head irritably and tells him not to sneak up like that, and Jade stands as if indifferent from the road. Leslie lets Jade in, saying it's better to come early than be late, but he has a restless look. Could this excessive diligence turn into a problem? Inside the shop, a wooden interior and hanging lamps are visible, and Leslie, spreading his arms, proudly welcomes him Aginth Black Cat into his store. On the right, Jade looked back and, noticing the shop's name, remarked, "Black Cat sounds cute," and Leslie waved it off, a little embarrassed. They finally sit down to work, deciding first to introduce themselves, and only then to get to work. While Leslie waits, Jade suddenly freezes, unable to utter a word, and Leslie begins to worry whether there is some reason why he cannot speak. On the right side steps forward Jade. He calls himself Jade Clon, and says he recently moved from the Elgrand Empire. Leslie reacts with surprise, and Jade calmly admits that he has never worked a day in his life. Stunned, Leslie asks how he has survived so far. Jade gives a vague answer, and brushing it off with something like that leaves Leslie even more confused. On the right, Leslie sits with his head in his hands and wonders if he has just hired a real madman, while Jade stands nearby and asks if he is okay. Leslie tries to calm himself, considering Stein's judgment sharp. If things go badly and Jade turns out to be useless, he will fire him, even if it upsets her, and sighs, reproaching himself for pretending to be tough when he can't even handle the situation. On the right, Leslie politely introduced himself and said he has been running the shop for 10 years. Before that, he was a skilled adventurer, and Jade listens with interest and surprise. He can't believe he got out alive, and almost without scars. Leslie laughs loudly, brushing it off and saying he just keeps himself in shape. Proudly flexing his muscles, he smiles, and Jade warns don't overdo it, or you'll pull your back again, but Leslie still smiles. On the right, he ignored the teasing and says, "Enough." He impatiently wants to start and tells Jade that it's time to learn how to do this job, and Jade looks at him, not understanding is he joking or serious. Inside, Leslie shows him everything around the job is to arrange goods on the shelves. Looking through books, checking shelves, and receiving packages, Jade follows step by step, absorbing every detail as his first day truly begins. On the right side, Leslie finishes the explanation and says, "That's all." He adds that most of the work is simple rough work, but without it the store cannot function properly. He tells Jade that he will generously pay for any good product idea. Jade nods, saying that makes sense. Still, he wants to focus first on learning the basics. Leslie smiles, pleased with his manner. On the right, Jade says that it seems he can handle deliveries at first, but Leslie quickly interrupts him and says to start with a bunch of tasks inside. Jade returns to work. Leslie notices his messy hair and immediately comments. Jade just sighs, waves it off, and goes to start the job. On the right, Jade fixes his hair, gathering it into a small ponytail at the nape. Leslie says he looks better now, and Jade reacts with surprise. Below, they tease each other. Jade points to Leslie's scruffy beard, and Leslie sharply replies that Jade would look neater if he shaved. The teasing relieves tension as they settle in for their first day together. On the right, Leslie tells Jade, "Don't get lost, and if anything, leave it to me." He reminds him not to rush and not to mix up the addresses. Jade nods and sets off to deliver orders. Watching him, Leslie thinks he probably worried too much. Jade is a bit rough but honest and ready to help. Suddenly, Leslie notices something and calls out, "Jade, you forgot your bag." On the right, Leslie runs out of the store with the forgotten bag in his hands and calls Jade. When he looks up, Jade is already running across the rooftops with a box in his hands. Leslie freezes, realizing he forgot something much more important than the bag. On the right, Jade looks at the map and focuses on his first stop, a house on the main street. He quickly rushes across the rooftops, instantly recognizing the familiar neighborhood. Finding it here is quite easy. He heads there thinking about how that incident with the pickpocket once unexpectedly helped him remember the way. On the right, a stylishly dressed man opens the door and greets Jade. Jade introduces himself, says he just started working at the Black Cat and came to deliver a package, asking if he is at the right house. The man immediately recognizes the shop, smiles, and without hesitation invites him inside. On the right side, Jade freezes on the threshold, surprised that he is let inside so easily. The man smiles reassuringly and gestures for him to come in. Jade puts down the package as requested, and the man offers to bring tea. He refuses, saying he is working. The man looks surprised and insists that Leslie usually comes to him for tea. Jade freezes, quietly realizing how close the relationship is between the shopkeeper and his client. On the right, Jade feels awkward after refusing the tea. The servant explains that his master also ordered sweets and that sharing tea with Leslie is always pleasant for them. He smiles warmly and says he looks forward to it every time. Jade apologizes, realizing they were just being polite. Before leaving, the servant gently invites him to join them next time for his master's sake as well. On the right, Jade slightly smiles and agrees, saying that after he finishes his route, he will come for tea next time. Walking away with the package, he realizes delivery is not just about leaving things, reaching the next stop. He leans over, hands the child a box, and calming down a bit, continues his work. On the right, Jade holds the last loaf. This is his final delivery. He steps away from the house and thinks everything went well. 3 houses in about 30 minutes, not bad for his first day. Just then, a little boy nearby pulled on the door, catching Jade's attention. On the right side, Jade awkwardly recalls the package from the Black Cat, but sparks lit up in the boy's eyes as he excitedly talks about the hero's sword. An older woman intervenes and gently asks the child not to bother him. Jade hands over the package and confirms the order. The woman thanks him, and the boy beams with joy, happily clutching the package as Jade finishes the delivery. On the right side, the boy proudly shows off his toy sword and says that Leslie fixed it perfectly. His grandmother smiles and says how that hero in the story was killed, but the legend does not fade, it lives in books and plays. Maybe someday a new hero will arise, and Jade quietly stands behind them listening, his face becoming thoughtful. On the right side, Jade waved off when asked if something was wrong, saying, "Nothing." The boy cheerfully ran off with his sword, and Jade's thoughts slowly drifted away. Gloomy memories flare up: violence, death, and human suffering. Silently, he hopes the next hero will create a world where no one will have to go through this anymore. On the right, Jade quietly agrees that it would be nice. The boy smiles and waves his toy sword as Jade walks away from the house. Walking down the street, Jade overhears people still whispering about the hero's death. For now, the truth hasn't spread thanks to Koro's cover-up. He gazes into the city, calm but seemingly detached. Whatever happens next, he will face it when the time comes. From the right side, Leslie stirs, cannot believe it. Jade says it's all over, although only 30 minutes have passed, and Leslie insists that even the shortest delivery takes 20 minutes round trip and barely believes it. Suspiciously narrowing his eyes, he asks if Jade is just dropping packages somewhere instead of delivering them properly. From the right side, Jade firmly denies throwing away the package. Leslie scrutinizes him closely and says that just in case, he will check with the client. Jade calmly accepts this. Since there are no more deliveries, Leslie gives other tasks until closing. Moving on, Jade quietly admits to himself that passing 3 houses in half an hour was probably a bit too fast. From the right side, Leslie does not take his eyes off Jade. She is still not sure. Jade is silent, arms folded, waiting. Later the store closed for the day, and Leslie decided to check the deliveries himself. He informed Jade that they were going out. They went out together onto the noisy streets, heading to confirm everything face to face. From the right side, Leslie and Jade go around every house. People warmly greet them and say that the parcels arrived without any problems. The boy proudly shows his repaired sword, and others thank them for what they brought. Having checked everything, Leslie sighs and admits that it is true. Jade really completed the entire delivery. From the right side, Leslie silently walks beside Jade, then finally says that the delivery was done, but he moved abnormally slowly. Jade just shrugged. Otherwise it would have taken the whole day. He is just slow. Leslie stops and looks at him seriously. He calls him by name and says he feels like Jade is hiding something. To the right, Leslie sharpened his gaze. He says that although he is retired, he was once an adventurer and can read people. Jade's face darkened for a moment. He realized Leslie noticed this. A cold thought flashed through his mind, but he immediately pushed it away and finally convinced himself that it was not worth revealing. From the right side emerges a dark memory. Jade stands over a fallen hero with a blade in his hand. If Leslie ever finds out the truth that he himself killed the hero, there will be no place for him here, and Jade, with a firm but anxious look, understands as soon as the secret comes out, he will have to leave this city. From the right side, Jade looks around the empty street and thinks, knock Leslie out and disappear. There is no one around. He hoped to gain trust, but if Leslie really suspects something, he will not stay silent. Jade clenched his jaw in irritation. Sweaty Leslie calls him by name. A heavy tension hangs between them. From the right side, suddenly Jade lunged, punched Leslie in the stomach with his fist, and grabbed him before he could react. Leslie instantly counterattacks, blocks, and delivers a powerful counterblow. During the clash, Jade sharply demands to know if Leslie was forced to leave the adventurous life only because of family. The fight erupted instantly, and from the right side, Leslie lowers his guard and admits that he understands. At home, he was exhausted, and he too never had time to enjoy life. He knows this pain. Jade listens. When he realizes that Leslie's story is not what he feared, relief comes. Leslie wipes his face and looks at him. Sighing heavily, they both catch their breath after the scuffle. From the right side, Leslie suddenly smiles and says he is starving, offering to treat Jade, and Jade, suddenly stunned, quickly agrees. They walk side by side down a crowded street, dissolving into the crowd. No one notices them. A figure in a cloak silently slips into the neighboring alley, watching from the shadows. On the right side, Jade suddenly freezes as if sensing something. Leslie asks what happened, but Jade waves it off. His eyes narrow as he notices a well-dressed man nearby, one who, although blending with the crowd, has a faint scent of blood. The man calmly walks past them, not even suspecting that Jade has already marked him as dangerous. On the right side, a week flies by since Jade started working at Leslie's store, Black Cat. He immerses himself in work, especially deliveries, swiftly rushing across rooftops. He knows his strengths and weaknesses, and outwardly it looks like he is just working hard. At least it seems so. On the right side, Jade freezes, eyes wide open in shock. In Leslie's shop, he sits with his back turned and calmly tells him, "Don't come tomorrow." These words hit hard and Jade freezes, stunned into silence. On the right side, Jade panics, sweat running down his face, imagining the worst. Leslie turns around and casually says that he simply meant Jade can relax tomorrow, nothing serious. Suddenly, sharp memories flash through Jade's mind, but Leslie quickly dismisses the thought of his dismissal, embarrassed by his reaction. Jade tries to calm down, realizing he jumped to conclusions. On the right side, Leslie tells Jade that they have been training him all week. And thanks to him, the store even started offering new services. He approaches closer and makes it clear that Jade is already an important part of the shop. He would never fire someone like him. Firmly shaking his hand, Leslie adds that whatever troubles Jade, he won't have to carry it alone. On the right side, Leslie says to Jade that he has been working hard all week and deserves to take tomorrow off. Jade looks at him surprised and quietly utters his name. When he goes outside, he doesn't know what to do on his day off, but after a pause, he finally realizes this is his first real rest. On the right, Leslie reminds Jade that he has a day off, hands him his weekly pay and says, "Spend it as you wish." Jade nods and goes outside, uncertain but intrigued. Walking through the lively city, he hears Leslie's words in his head, "Spend as you wish, but from now on you will be paid monthly, so spend wisely." Jade looks at the coins in his hand and awkwardly realizes this is more money than he has ever had. After paying for the tavern and the last dinner, he still has silver coins and a few coppers left, and he thinks about what to buy first. In new clothes, maybe even with a real sword, he was walking, deep in thought, when a sudden shout of thief cut through the street and instantly brought him back to reality. On the right side, a hooded thief is rushing down the street. Someone is shouting for help. The victim points at him, and people freeze in shock. He calmly watches him, thinking that pickpockets are a common thing here. He remembers how last time, when he entered, they treated him like a criminal, but that very adventure brought him together with Stana and led him to work in Leslie's shop. On the right, Jade jumped into the chase, rushing between walls and roofs after the fleeing thief. Moving, he decided to use the opportunity to spread the name of the Black Cat, and when people noticed him, he confidently introduced himself, but the reaction was lukewarm. But he just shrugged and moved forward, determined to make it work. On the right, Jade watches the thief from the roofs, calmly considering the route to intercept him, and clearly sees the target below, always one step ahead. But as soon as he takes a step to intercept, something unusual catches his eye in the alley and he freezes in the middle of the chase. On the right, Jade slows down, intently looking into the alley. It doesn't look like an ambush. The thief stops and looks around instead of running away. Jade squinted, wondering if that man was looking for someone. Something was clearly wrong in this chase. On the right side, Jade realizes that the pickpocket was turned back. Usually someone would chase after him, but this was clearly a setup. At first, he aims at the stolen bag, restraining himself from rushing at everyone at once. The thieves see that he is not biting. Panic irritation overwhelms them. They argue over the failed bait plan and decide to switch places and try again, but as soon as they move, Jade appears from the side and with a strong kick hits one of them, blocking their escape route. On the right side, in the shadow, the man sharply grabs one of the thieves and coldly orders to get that guy who ruined their business in the red light district. Words flow down the street while others move. Jade hears in the words stiffens, red light district, job, and his eyes narrow. He understands this is no coincidence. On the right side, Jade puts it all together in his head. The thieves are not alone, someone is leading them. As soon as this thought comes, his eyes narrow, they are hunting him. A scream echoed through the alley, someone noticed him and showed others. On the right side, Jade rushed. With one move, stunned one and threw him over his shoulder, while the others searched the alley, shouting that he was not there. They noticed too late he slipped past them. Holding the unconscious man in his arms, Jade feels as if they had just gathered. They still do not know his face. For now, he continues to observe. Jade is walking down the street, carrying an unconscious thief on his shoulder, when a police officer in uniform stops him and asks for a moment. Seeing the man he is carrying, the officer wonders if he is another thief. Jade calmly confirms this, and as they talk, the officer looks more closely and says that this is the same man from the red light district. Jade is quietly surprised and calmly returns to the guardhouse, holding the pickpocket by the bag as if by the collar. While the soldier stands stunned, he caught the same thief again. The thief is dizzy, he is confused. The guard recalls his joke that Jade would bring another criminal and now is unsure if it was just a coincidence. Jade brushes it off, saying it was a coincidence, and Nails is supposed to hand over this man. He simply ignored the advice that a person with his skills should join the city guard, and without hesitation, refused the offer. Wade brushed off the offer to join the city guard, saying he already works at the Black Cat tool shop and only wants a quiet, simple life. The guard jokes that if the shop ever closes, Jade should look for him, and Jade grumbles in response not to tempt fate because of his job. The shadows of the shop windows stretch along the main street, eyeing with an ornate staff, and thought that although the weapons are of good quality, everything sold on the main street is too expensive. Jade carefully examined an exquisite metal bracelet in the shop and compared it with the goods at Black Cat, thinking that their items are both better in quality and cheaper. Walking briskly down the main street at night, he turns his gaze into reconnaissance through the shop windows, noticing price differences and looking for opportunities for his shop. He's about to go to the Western Market, but decides it is already late, turns back, and at that moment someone in the shadows notices him and says interestedly, Jade looks into a jewelry store and sees a bracelet, like the one Black Cat sells, but he notices, in this store the quality is better and the price is lower. Walking down the main street at night, he perceives the walk as a market check, looking at prices and goods, and thinks that this way it is easier to notice opportunities to improve his store. He would also like to visit the Western Market, but it is already late, so he decides to return, and someone in a dark corner, watching, quietly notices him, walking down the street. Suddenly Jade runs into Stana. She cheerfully greets him, recognizing him immediately. And he raised his eyes to her, eyes full of shock and surprise. Stana and Jade walked side by side, catching up with each other in conversation, and she happily asks how he is doing at work. He tells her that everything was great and it is thanks to her. Leslie already trusts him with deliveries, so he rushes all over the city, and she is delighted to hear this. When she worries that she might interrupt his route, Jade explains that it is actually his day off, he is just shopping, and brushing off her concern, slightly complains that everything is so expensive. Jade noticed that the stores on the main street are too expensive, and Stana agreed. She usually only looks in the windows because the real bargains are in the eastern part of the city. Suddenly she decides that they should go there together, excitedly calls him to go shopping and immediately moves forward, and Jade, a little stunned, caught up in her enthusiasm, follows. Jade walks down a narrow alley next to Stana and cannot resist looking into the weapons shop, although he works in a tool store. He feels uneasy as if someone is watching, suspicious people nearby. He stands and feels that the big city is full of problems, so it is better to be on guard. Jade agrees that self-defense is important and follows her as she leads him to a weapons shop hidden in a side alley. Stana accidentally bumps into a tall blonde man in a coat and, flustered, quickly apologizes, while he looks down at her with a cold, impenetrable gaze. Standing behind, panic grips Jade, sweat runs down his face, and he shouts, "Stana." Suddenly the blonde attacks and delivers a huge sweeping blow right at Stana. Stana calls him by name. Jade reacts instantly. He has already knocked her to the ground to protect her. She apologizes confusedly. He loosens his grip and helps her up, while the blonde calmly approaches as if nothing happened. In front of Jade and Stana, the man politely takes the blame for the collision, but the stranger skillfully takes all the blame on himself and apologizes, while Jade silently watches. Squinting, she clearly does not believe in this innocent act. Jade clicks his tongue in his mouth, irritated that he really reacted to the stranger's murderous intent by pulling Stana down. She continues talking, and he stares at the blonde. Sure, he has seen this face before, just can't remember where. The man calmly half-draws a sword from its sheath, smiles, and says he heard about a skilled blacksmith nearby and supposedly just got lost, was going to have a friend's commemorative blade repaired. Stana smiles and suggests they all go to Smith's together, since she and Leslie are going there anyway, and Jade looks worried. The blonde nods with a slight smile, then politely introduces himself as Avan, but while he does this, he and Jade exchange cautious, measured glances, each quietly wary of the other. As they walk, Jade watches Avan closely, his manner, hand near the sword. Everything about him breathes danger, and Jade thinks he needs to be taken out right now. But with Stana nearby, he does not dare to make a scene. For now, he restrains himself, hiding the tension behind a calm facial expression, from right to left. The dark-haired man jumped in shock when suddenly something wrapped around the blonde's neck. The blonde froze, eyes wide open. He was completely unprepared. In a moment, the tension subsides. The fair-haired man laughs lightly. The woman nearby becomes embarrassed and hurriedly tries to defuse the situation, while the dark-haired man remains serious and still looks at them suspiciously. Moving from right to left, the blonde jokingly takes a step forward, teasing her, and the girl, embarrassed, asks him to stop and quickly slips between the bookshelves. The dark-haired man stands aside, deciding for now to just observe because he feels not everything is so simple here. The blonde becomes serious, feeling the tension behind his back. Moving from right to left, the group stops in front of a small, sturdy building with a sign of a weapons shop. From the outside, the place looks simple and a bit worn. They go inside, and at the door they are politely greeted. When they enter, the blonde notices that from the outside it may not impress, but he is sure the quality inside is worth it, and the dark-haired man quietly walks behind. Entering the weapons shop from right to left, they were hit by heavy, suffocating heat. The air was thick, which worried the blonde, while the dark-haired man remained calm. Examining the displayed weapons, they noticed that someone was missing. The blonde wonders, how can the dark-haired man remain so unshaken in this atmosphere? From right to left, the dark-haired man examined the walls lined with blades and shields, noticing simple but stylish forms and an amazingly good selection for such a small shop. He notices impressive items on display: a huge sword and sturdy armor. Behind the counter, a large beast-like shopkeeper has again collapsed and is dozing. The girl points at it, and the dark-haired man with a dry smile wonders if the old man behind is also for sale. From right to left, the beast-like merchant slowly emerges from drowsiness. When the girl calls him, he raises his head, still sleepy. The dark-haired man quietly observed, trying to figure out who the merchant might be. The girl politely apologized for disturbing him. The beast recognized her and, straightening up, greeted her humanly, stepping out from behind the barrel on which he was resting. From the right edge to the left, the girl introduces two men, saying that they are looking for a skilled weaponsmith and that this shop is the best choice. The craftsman beast says he cannot refuse her and asks what they need. The light-haired man stepped forward and extended a sword, explaining that because of its strange shape, other blacksmiths refused to take it and asked to repair it. From right to left, the beast-like blacksmith lifts the sword and carefully examines its curved blade, fascinated by the rare shape. He asks where it is from, and the blonde explains that it was bought among imported goods. The smith recalls that it was called a thing in memory of a friend, and the blonde shrugged indifferently, saying it was just what his friend told him. From right to left, the blacksmith leans toward the blade, carefully examining and pondering it. When asked if he can repair it, he confidently agrees and says he will take it to the forge weight, and the blonde hands him the blade with relief. Blacksmith stepped away, and the girl, with a spark in her eyes, suggested looking at other swords for now, saying Jade wants one for herself, and the dark-haired man stood nearby, ready if needed. From right to left, the dark-haired man casually reviews the price tags, notices the cost, and, as if in passing, asks about the budget. The girl apologizes to Stana while they look through the racks. Blonde almost gasped at the weapon. His eyes lit up. He couldn't believe it was so cheap. The dark-haired man wonders why he is more excited than himself. At the end, the blind man thanks him, but insists on choosing his own weapons. He is confident in his sense for weapons. From right to left, the blonde enthusiastically rushes to help, and the girl runs after the dark-haired man, not wanting to stay aside. They surround the barrel filled with swords together, confused by so many options. The dark-haired man looks puzzled, not knowing what to do with it. Meanwhile, the blonde raises a blade and, laughing, points to the mix of masterpieces and junk, saying the shopkeeper is craftier than he seems. From right to left, the dark-haired man quickly chooses. The girl looks surprised. The blonde doubts it, and he calmly lifts the short sword and says, "Here it is." The blade is old and worn. Scratches are visible on the edge, but despite its age, he seems satisfied with it. The blonde on the right leans to the left and seems to say, "If you choose a weapon, take the best one." He points to the sharper blade, confident in its quality. The dark-haired man quietly gazes at the blade and realizes how deadly it is, but does not change his choice and keeps his eyes on the old short sword. From right to left, the dark-haired man firmly says he has already decided. His expression is unwavering, and he holds the blade tightly. The blonde smirked, but, noticing the training dummies nearby, suggested testing the weapon. The girl goes ahead deeper into the shop. While the two men pay attention to the testing area, moving from right to left, they thank Stanny and head there. The blonde glows with anticipation. He is ready to try it out. As soon as it became clear that Jade is buying the sword, he is let go first. He steps forward, firmly grabs the short blade, and agrees without hesitation. From right to left, Jade suddenly lunged at the training dummy, moving low and fast, with a sharp, vigilant gaze. In a moment, he swings and closes the distance. Others stand behind and watch the girl with interest, and the blonde calmly observes as the strike lands. Jade, examining the blade from right to left after the strike, excitedly notes its balance and sharpness, especially for such a low price. The girl looks on in amazement at how well he performs. Nearby, the blonde smiles to himself, confident that if Jade called that good, his choice must be even better, and he heads to the testing area to prove it. From right to left, the blonde, with one precise blade movement, sliced the training dummy through half. Jade says it's impressive, and the girl is shocked at how easily it split. Suddenly, the beast-like blacksmith returned, apologized for testing the blade, and said everything was already repaired, leaving them surprised at how quickly it was done. From right to left, the group thanks the blacksmith and leaves the workshop. He watches them go and thinks about how unusual these customers were. Now he is alone, looking at the cleanly cut dummy and marveling at how perfectly it was sliced in half. Even for a good blade, such a clean cut shouldn't have been so easy, and this quietly impressed him. From right to left, Smith suddenly felt something and flinched. A shadow loomed behind his back. Looking closely, he sees a clean, neat hole in a piece of expensive armor and cannot understand when it happened or how it was done. The realization hits him like a blade. He was pierced by that short saber. Meanwhile, Jade stands unshaken, blade in hand, as if saying there is no doubt. From right to left, Jade slightly smiled when she realized. The short sword not only pierced the armor, it even passed through the mirror behind her. Blacksmith looks, not believing his eyes. That armor was the strongest in the shop, and no cheap blade from the sales shelf could have done that. From right to left, the pierced armor and mannequin stand side by side, clearly showing a clean damage mark. Suddenly, the blacksmith remembers something from ancient times. His eyes widen, the memory surfaces, and he freezes mid-thought, trying to connect what he just saw with the past. From right to left, the old short sword looked worn, simple, completely unremarkable, one that no ordinary adventurer would choose, and suddenly the blacksmith realizes it is gone. He panics and shouts that his master's short sword is missing. Recalling that he was distracted by a suspicious blonde, he finally understands. The real danger was not in the blade, but in the one who took it. From right to left, the blonde descends the stairs of a large building, casually whistling, with swords at his side. Inside, a man greets him immediately as he returns, wasting no time. The blonde passes by him and asks to look at the sword. He wants to know if it has already been repaired. From right to left, the blonde admires the repaired blade, smiles and calls it beautiful, while the bald man nearby bursts with wild joy, clearly overwhelmed with emotion. Later, the blonde comfortably settles behind the bar with a light smile. He thanks the gods for this day and casually asks for wine, pleased with how everything turned out. From right to left, Jade's focus strike flashed through the blonde's thoughts. The more he tried not to think about it, the more he felt repelled by it. Alone with his thoughts, he slightly smiled and admitted to himself that he could no longer ignore it. That man, Jade, caught his eye, and he began to think that he should take a closer look at him from right to left. Morning came to the city. Jade calmly greets the day when a large bearded man with a box called out to him and asked how his day off was going. Jade says everything turned out hectic. He thanks Stana for watching over him and adds that it was still a good break while the man listens. He quietly turns his thoughts back to recent events and concludes that the blonde he met is dangerous. From right to left, a bearded man leans back, disappointed and deep in thought, not understanding what the matter is. He complains that as soon as he invites her somewhere, she immediately flies off. Jade stands nearby, smiling indifferently, asking, "Is it worth getting offended over this after all? We just went shopping and ate deliciously." Suddenly, he changes the subject and says there is a more important matter, a problem between the stores on Main Street and Black Cat that needs attention. From the right edge to the left, the town's shops are compared. Their store is more expensive than the open-air market, but still the cheapest on the main street. The bearded man comes alive as soon as they start talking about business. Jade emphasized that Black Cat keeps low prices, but customers remain very satisfied, and said that this is their real advantage. Then he calmly presented his proposal. From right to left, Jade explains that Black Cat ended up in a bad location at the very end of the main street, so almost no one passes by it, and she suggests hanging a sign outside with clear prices. The bearded man recalls that when they previously hung a sign about delivery, the number of customers increased, and Jade adds that the store is good and just needs better advertising. The man laughs in agreement. From right to left, Jade eagerly suggests making simple flyers with the same information as on the sign, and says she will find other stores that agree to hang them. The bearded man nods and says he will prepare the flyers in the meantime. Going out on errands, Jade quietly runs through other places in her mind where she can stop by, already planning to mark a few more spots along the way. From right to left, the flyers are ready. Jade reviews them and thinks they would stand out better in color, but admits they are simple and easy to understand. He grabs the stack and says he will distribute them himself. The bearded man smiles and offers to give a few at the start, pleased with how they turned out, and Jade leaves, counting on his support for the plan. From right to left, Jade walks through the city with a stack of flyers in his hands, thinking that now it's his turn to earn some money, and notices that Leslie works quickly, so he needs to keep up. He decides to start with the Adventurers Guild and heads to the large building, around which people are constantly bustling, sometimes entering, sometimes leaving. Moving from right to left, Jade enters the noisy Adventurers Guild and immediately notices how crowded it is with adventurers. He listens as someone says that adventurers quickly use up their tools, and the Black Cat mostly goes to ordinary townsfolk. Watching the crowd, Jade decides the Black Cat needs to be placed right in the adventurers' line of sight if they want to grow. From the right to the left edge, the guild is packed, especially near the counter. A large adventurer grumbles about the tightness. Others line up with requests. Jade squeezes through the crowd and watches as people take tasks matching their skills, gathering herbs, hunting monsters, searching for items. He carefully studies the task board and begins to think about how this could connect with trading in the shop. From the right side, a rough-looking traveler pushes up to Jade and, trying to provoke him, shouts, "Got something to say?" And Jade coldly replies he goes to the end of the line, and then another man intervenes and orders the bully to back off. Jade waved it off, thinking it was just noise under his feet, and stood watching them walk away. He recognizes them, two young adventurers who are quickly making a name for themselves, and knows well, here status is decided by strength. Jade, turning his back from right to left, disdainfully said that it's none of his business, and looking at them, added that apparently they barely earn anything anyway. As he walks away, the two newcomers step forward and block his way, accusing him of cutting in line. Jade remains calm and says he joined the queue like everyone else, and the tension rises as they come closer and realize he really did not ignore them. On the left, one of the newcomers grabs a flyer, and mocking upon seeing that it is not an application form, ridicules Jade, nothing special. Jade didn't even move when they waved it off and called it trash. Instead, he kneels by the board and quietly apologizes to Leslie for putting the work with the flyers on him. He believes that if it helps the store grow, it's worth it, even if working alone was easier. From right to left, a bearded man beams a wide smile and says that since Jade appeared, the work has become more interesting, and every day brings joy. The mood changes. Jade's face hardens under the shadow of his bangs, and nearby some rude person harshly tells the old man, "Get lost," invading their space and again increasing the tension. Starting from the right and moving left, the newcomers noticed how Jade's expression changed and laughed at the old man again. Suddenly, one of them lunged forward and punched when they attacked him, and a fight almost broke out in the middle of the guild, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Jade watches and tenses, knowing he could easily take them down, but there are too many eyes around. He clicks his tongue and admits to himself that it affected him. From right to left, as the newcomers rush to attack, Jade calmly decides he needs a distraction. Suddenly, something crashes down from above. With a crack scattering against the ceiling and drawing everyone's attention, in the confusion Jade smoothly slid, creating space between them. The newcomer froze from the sudden noise, and the bearded man and others raised their heads in horror, not understanding what happened. From right to left, people in the guild exchanged confused glances, thinking maybe a lamp had burned out. The sudden crash stunned everyone outside. One of the newcomers was thrown through the window. He hit the ground, shocked and injured, and amid the chaos Jade quietly slipped outside and left without a word. Walking from right to left, Jade makes his way through the crowded street and thinks that he won't manage to distribute flyers in the guild after all. He decides to come back another day and for now put the rest aside. When he turns into a quieter district, he is overcome by the feeling someone is following him, just one person. He wonders if they noticed that commotion earlier. Do they want to expose him or just take revenge? He keeps walking, outwardly calm, but already preparing for what might happen. Moving from right to left, Jade turned into a narrow alley and noticed that the person behind began to slow down. The pursuer looked up in surprise when Jade suddenly disappeared from view, and a moment later Jade was behind him and instantly knocked him down. The man falls to the ground in shock. He realizes too late that he stepped right into a trap. In any case, Jade will not allow himself to be chased. Right to left. Jade pressed the young man from behind and put a blade to his throat. His face was calm, but cold. He decided he would not let this situation drag on. He leans closer and quietly warns, "Don't move and don't speak." The boy trembles, sweating all over, with wide-open eyes, and understands that he is completely at Jade's mercy. From right to left, Jade holds the blade near the boy's neck and calmly asks his name. The frightened boy stammers before answering, naming himself Trevor Bricker. Jade looks closely, does not believe it. Before her is just a child. She questions why Trevor was following him and warns him not to lie, saying that everything is visible from the pulse. Trevor trembles under the pressure, unable to hide his fear. From right to left, Trevor blurted out that he saw Jade in the guild knock down 3 brothers, explained that this was exactly why he was following her, and then broke down and cried, apologizing again and again. Through tears, he admits that he simply considered Jade incredible. Jade silently looks down at him, trying to make sense of such an unexpected answer. From right to left, Trevor sobs even louder, completely overwhelmed. Jade sharply hisses in his face, "Shut up or I'll break your arm," trying to silence him. The boy instantly panics and in tears swears that he will do nothing, begging. Jade sharply presses his hand to his mouth to make him be quiet, then seriously asks if he is connected with those guys. From right to left, Trevor snorts and apologizes, quickly nodding when asked if he is with them. His face is still swollen from crying, and Jade pulls his hand away. Trying to calm down, Trevor says that what happened in the guild was simply a miracle. He admits that Jade moved so fast he didn't even have time to understand how it was done. Jade listens quietly while Trevor, still shaken but sincere, struggles with explanations. From right to left, Trevor sniffs and nods, still in tears, saying yes, wipes his face and tries to steady his breathing. Jade realizes the guy really saw everything. Trevor repeats that the scene in the guild was incredible, but Jade moved so fast he couldn't say exactly what he did, and adds that one of the brothers was already knocked out, so it must be Jade's doing. From right to left, Trevor explains that those 3 constantly bully him. Seeing them knocked down gave him some relief, and he sincerely thanks Jade. Jade waves it off, saying he just settled personal scores and there's no need to thank him. Mumbling, he adds that he probably worried for nothing. Trevor hesitates, trying to say something more about today. Jade waits, watching him intently, from right to left Trevor. Suddenly he steps forward, eyes wide open and determined despite the tears. He blurts out that he wants Jade to make him his apprentice. Jade freezes, completely taken by surprise, looking at him in shock. From right to left, Trevor insists with sparks in his eyes, confident that training with Jade will make him stronger. Jade immediately cuts off the idea without hesitation, and when Trevor continues to press, she turns and quickly runs away. It's clear she is not interested at all. Trevor rushes after him, begging for another chance, while Jade runs off, waving him off and categorically refusing to get involved. From right to left, Trevor keeps shouting that he will beg every day until Jade accepts him, and Jade suddenly freezes upon hearing the name of the tool shop, Black Cat. He freezes for a second, realizing this could get complicated. Trevor continues to beg, but Jade sharply responds and refuses again. After a long pause, he rubs his face in frustration and finally agrees, says he will take the child with him. Trevor throws his hands up in genuine admiration, and Jade already looks as if he regrets it. From right to left, Trevor clenches his fist and says that for now he is just a low-ranking novice, but whatever happens, he will become stronger. Jade looks at him seriously and sets the rules. If he is going to teach him, Trevor must follow his conditions. The first is clear. He is forbidden to come to the Black Cat, and Trevor immediately agrees decisively, while Jade remains calm but unyielding. From right to left, Trevor beams a huge smile and calls Jade his master, clearly delighted. Jade just looks at him, frozen by surprise and a little worried. Trevor happily rushes away, and Jade watches him go, already feeling that this might turn into trouble. In a moment, Trevor dashed back. Laughing awkwardly, he just realized he forgot to ask when and where they would train. Moving from right to left, Yad returned to the Black Cat and said, "I'm back," to which the bearded man remarked that it took too long, and Yad explained that some matters had come up. Inside, the postcards are already properly posted, and others sigh with relief. They feared all of them would be rejected. Jade quietly accepts this, seeing the plan beginning to move forward. From the right edge to the left, the bearded man enthusiastically throws Jade into a chokehold, praises the idea, and happily says the store will rise again, while Jade asks not to get ahead of themselves. The man runs out, burning with enthusiasm, and Jade thinks that as long as they stick to the small scale it will work, but if they really want to expand Black Cat's reach and make it a tool store, they will need something more. Suddenly, from right to left, a paper was thrown. Jade turned around, irritated, and asked what that was supposed to mean. Three brothers cornered Trevor at the table and mocked him again, pretending to be generous, saying that gathering herbs suits someone like him, and ironically advising to hunt first, then take up herbs. Trevor is shrinking under pressure. Someone nearby calls the vice master with gills to intervene, and in the shadows one figure watches and quietly snorts. From right to left, a calm voice interjects, "Take this outside, stop fighting in the guild." One of the brothers shouted, "Who is interfering here?" Instead, before you stands a round, neatly dressed gentleman with a mustache and monocle, who cheerfully calls himself the Vice Guild Master. Politely smiling, he says that this will be properly resolved, and suggests everyone sit down for an honest conversation. Business from left. At dawn, Jade finishes exhausting training. He counted up to 1,000 squats with one hand raised, balancing, leaning on a chair, and sweat ran down his face as he completed the last repetitions. After the last count, he collapses on the bed, catching his breath. After coming to a bit, he mumbles that it's time for work, but first he will rest a little more. From the right edge to the left stretches the Guild of Adventurers, quietly frozen in the morning light. Jade looks at the postcard in his hands and thinks that yesterday he couldn't even negotiate properly, and today he is going to ask differently. Inside the guild there is silence, and it is almost empty at this time. He has the perfect chance to solve all matters without unnecessary distractions. Moving from right to left, Jade approaches the counter and asks to hang the postcard in the guild, explaining that he is not an adventurer, and the receptionist politely greets him. He shows the postcard. She apologizes and says that announcements are not hung on the board. Without a request, Jade instantly offers to add this at the bottom as a request and asks if this option is suitable. She hesitates, then says she will call her boss to let him decide, and Jade meanwhile waits, trying not to show nervousness. From right to left, Jade patiently stands with a flyer in hand when a round man with a monocle approaches and says he is just having breakfast. He apologized for the burden, introduced himself as the deputy head of the guild, Michael O'Brien, and with a polite smile prepared to listen to Jade. From right to left, the deputy head heavily plops into a chair and wipes his face with a rag. His massive stature and confident appearance fill the room with tension, as if he is used to being an important person. Jade quietly observes, noticing that despite his size the man moves silently, and even his strange breathing stands out. After a pause, Jade calmly turns his attention back. He inquires about his business. From right to left, Jade explains that he runs the tool shop Black Cat and asks permission to hang a flyer in the guild. The deputy listened and calmly replied that he cannot allow flyers without an official application, and added that even if it were possible, the board is already full. Jade does not give up. Raising the paper, he asks, what if the flyer itself is submitted as a request? From right to left, scenes of monster hunts, uprisings, and even growing requests to garrisons flicker. After the hero's death, the world slowly descends into chaos. Adventurers clutch weapons against increasingly terrible threats. Dark silhouettes gather in the sky above the city, and inside the deputy head says that against all this, small merchant errands like this seem completely unimportant compared to the growing danger outside. From right to left, Jade shows several small errands: weeding the garden, walking a pet, or digging in the shop, and the deputy head realizes he has found those too. He says if there is no space on the board, he will make it himself. Take one of those requests, clear a spot, and hang the Black Cat announcement there. He insists that if such tasks are allowed on the board, then his shop has the same right to be there. The deputy head paused for a moment, thinking then, glancing from right to left, finally yielded and allowed Jade to do as he pleased. Jade thanks him. Without delay, he immediately heads to the order board, reviews the notes, and looks for something that can be completed quickly. His eyes freeze on one task. It seems quite simple: pest extermination in the northern cave. He carefully studies all the details and decides that it is exactly that. From the right edge to the left appears a huge earth dragon, marked as a high-rank monster, looming over the battlefield, and Jade freezes, feeling that this is something more than a simple cleanup. He reminds himself that being able to handle it does not mean he should, and the thought that the merchant who kills the dragon will attract too much attention is instantly rejected. No way. Having scanned from right to left, Jade noticed another announcement and asked about repairs in the guild. They explained simply: several adventurers fought while waiting for a quest. The fight got out of control. People were beaten. The ceiling and lamps were damaged. Jade slightly shuddered, as if feeling that chaos again. From right to left, Jade says that he has his own tool shop and is still ready to take on the guild's repairs. The deputy head says that they never found the culprit and hoped that the responsible person would fix everything themselves. Jade looks away, clearly feeling guilty, and the deputy brightens up, saying that this helps a lot. When Jade asks why, he explains that the repair fee will be waived because Jade was allowed to post a flyer. Later, Jade brings materials and helps repair the place, staying in the shadows and quietly supporting his shop. Jade apologizes to Leslie, blaming himself, saying he was not strong enough, and Leslie waves it off and says not to worry, bigger goals lie ahead. Standing outside, Jade steals his resolve. In the shadows, someone watches, thinking they have finally found their target. Jade decides that it is time to end this. From afar, two men watch Jade closely. They say that Avan suspects him of interfering in their work. One doubts, saying he is just an old man, but they still decide to keep him under surveillance. Jade walks away, either unaware or perhaps fully aware that he is being watched. The two men do not take their eyes off him as he heads back to his shop. Jace follows his usual routine, walks around the city, talks to people, handles matters, and behaves as usual. A week later, the observers check with each other again, asking if he made any suspicious moves. Avan listens to the report and hears that Jade did nothing unusual, just working as always. Someone asks if they are overcomplicating things, but Avan remains cautious. After a moment, he agrees there is no clear evidence, at least for now. The chief comes after noticing strange reports and finds Owen involved in internal disputes. Calmly but firmly, he reproaches him for wasting time and reminds him that more is expected from him than from others. A figure in a cloak shouts to the desperate crowd, "The world is falling apart without a hero. Someone must gather it together." Elsewhere, Avan is pressured to understand that his organization needs more power and visibility to make a statement, and he silently accepts this. A man in glasses calmly observes, pleased with where everything is heading. Evan is told, "Don't worry about minor obstacles and focus, the plans are already in motion." After the meeting, tension in his group rises. One asks what will happen next, another mockingly dismisses the idea of retreating, and Avan, irritated but restrained, clearly makes it understood they will not be taken for fools. Avan strictly orders his people not to stop the investigation regarding Jade, warning them that watching from afar will teach nothing. From afar, Jade feels the pressure mounting. Ivan understands that Jade is not a trivial matter, but a serious threat. If left alone, he could shake their entire organization. One of Avon's men watches Jade from afar, thinking that if nothing happens, there is no point in acting, but he is clearly irritated. Babysitting someone he considers a harmless shopkeeper seems a waste of time, and boredom becomes too much. He begins to convince himself that Jade is just lucky, not dangerous, and that this whole ambush is pointless. The one who was tailing Jade lost patience and sharply declared that if nothing is happening, they must force something to happen. His partner hesitated, and it was clear he thought it reckless, but in the end they both decided to move. Two men burst into the shop and immediately start mocking the place. The shop is crowded, customers have their hands full, and the owner greets everyone warmly. His hands are full to the ears, yet he is still working. The troublemaker stands by the entrance. Someone glanced around the place, clearly about to start something. Jade calmly steps forward. They say the men will deal with him, whether he likes it or not. One of them tries to corner him, pointing at the one blocking the door. The shop owner quickly intervenes, pretending everything is fine, and asks Jade to make a small exchange. Meanwhile, one of the troublemakers starts shouting about a defective monster charm, calling the goods junk and causing a scene in front of everyone. The troublemakers retreat, but the damage is already done. Leslie looks upset in the shop. He understands that he has once again allowed the situation to get out of control. Customers are coming in one after another, and the tension is already noticeably hanging in the air. Jade quietly watches as the shop comes to life, and Leslie admits, Although he is happy about the customers, everything is starting to get confusing and out of control. At first, someone says that probably more hands are needed. He clearly feels the pressure from how everyone is overloaded. Suddenly, a girl runs into the room, shining with excitement, immediately agrees and catches them by surprise. She says she was out shopping but rushed back because she was worried about Leslie. Her sudden energy fills the shop, and Jade just stands and watches as chaos grows around him. Standing aside in his group, he watched and could not understand why the tension still held around the shop. From the side, Jade notices quiet hostility and does not stay silent about it. The big shopkeeper admits that he does not like to see people taking sides. Stana intervenes, saying that next time everything should be done humanely if someone really got hurt. The shop owner offers to treat her, but she sees how busy they are and politely refuses. The atmosphere seems to have eased. The anxiety has not completely subsided yet. Stana prepares to give Jay painkillers, but he insists he can manage on his own. As soon as the medicine is mentioned, one of Avan's people recognizes them and completely loses control. His eyes widen. He lunges forward like a hungry beast, screaming desperately. In a moment, calm in the shop bursts again as he rushes straight at them, desperately trying to grab the drugs. The attacker from the attic rushes straight at Stana, but Jade instantly stands between them and pushes him aside right during the attack. The man falls trembling and covered in sweat, completely consumed by craving. He begs for a dose, barely thinking, and one of the onlookers, watching this chaos unfold, realizes it turned out that this might come in handy, even though it was not planned.